In the Discord, you can find the videos of the brawl. So they had a brawl. Jesse on Fire notices that doesn't feel right. Here's Dana White. Jesse on Fire reacting to Dana White talking about this fight. Now, when Dana White came to this press conference after UFC Mexico, first thing he said was, hurry up, gotta be quick, I got a flight to catch. Okay, that happens. It's a fast business world. Who wants to stay out of country longer than they need to, right? I've never seen him that in a hurry to get out of somewhere, or even kind of like say that type of shit to people, like, I gotta go, he usually gives his time. He didn't look distressed, he didn't look stressed out, but Dana is known to be able to cover things when he's under pressure.
Had Cartel involvement, and it was that egregious of a decision, and I'll tell you what I'm talking about there in a second. But first, let's go ahead and watch this clip of Dana, and we'll talk about this fight.
It happened here in Mexico City. The crazy thing about that fight, when that fight broke out, it felt like it kept going forever. So I ran over there, and I was watching it. Nobody stopped it. I mean, I was waiting for security to come in. They just let him go till it was over. That's one of the craziest things I've ever seen. I don't think it's a bad look for the UFC. It happened, and that was the end of that. I think after everybody else saw that shit, nobody else wanted to try that again. No security. The fight just went on.
All right, so that's the first thing that sounds crazy. No security. UFC fight. Brawl breaks out in the middle of the floor. Like, it was a crazy little brawl. Like, it lasted a while.
Till the fight was over. I've never seen any shit like that in my life.
Now, I'd love to show you guys this entire fight video. Obviously, I would love to show you street fight videos all the time. But you can't show them on YouTube without getting demonetized and deranked. Like, YouTube's algorithm instantly catches street fight stuff. It's crazy. They're like, it's unbelievable how accurate it is. But anyway, like what you're looking at right here, and why we're going to talk about cartel stuff in a second is I will explain. But this guy right here who has his arm out and he has his, one of his sleeves has been ripped off. That guy's about to get starched. Now, assuming that you have not...
Bro, he got starched. Buddy got laid out. It was a whole scuffle, and he kind of stood back and put his arms down, and Buddy from the left side cracked him. Boop! And the whole crowd went crazy. Big old fight, and nobody gets involved. No staff gets involved. Long fight, no staff gets involved. Both sides of the coin, right? Sometimes people say, nobody's looking for nobody, and the cartel's worried about other things, and then you got other people that say they have eyes everywhere, and they know everything, and they know everybody, and where everybody's at. Could it be that they knew not to mess with the dudes that was in that scrap? Nobody jumped in, nothing. That fight was over.
I have nothing negative to say about anybody's performance in this fight. I think all of them looked very violently capable. I wouldn't want to fight any of them because they all look like they totally know what they're doing. But one guy definitely who knew what he was doing is the guy who starched that dude's friend who has his sleeve off and then rolled and absolutely nuclearized the guy with his sleeve ripped off. And when he did it,
this dude right here, he got knocked dead right around this point too. This is him right here. He goes flat. And it's this guy that does it, if I recall correctly.
This dude, like, they literally lost it. Like as if someone had just knocked someone out cold in the middle of the, actual fight.
Yeah, when Buddy right here got knocked out, the whole crowd erupted. Like if somebody got knocked out in the cage.
It was hilarious. And I don't think the guy realized it either. Because he starched the guy and the crowd went wild and he didn't react to it at all. Like I think he thought that they were still definitely yelling for him though, because you could see we were talking about this related to Cartel, right? So did you hear what Dana said? Like he said that no security jumped in, right? Like have you guys ever been to a UFC event? One thing that's really weird, I should have actually started that clip a little bit earlier. But what the guy said was there was a huge fight in the crowd. Do you think that reflects poorly on the UFC? And Dana's like, reflects poorly on the UFC? And the guy's like, yeah. And he's like, hey man, we have these events all the time. That kind of thing never happens. And then he says, but this one was crazy. Like it started and like no security came. It just like fought until the fight was over.
And it was like security figured they don't get paid enough to go deal with some dudes they know could serve their whole family up later. And security was like, oh no, ni pa allá voy a mirar. I'm not even looking that way.
And you heard him, no security got involved. I've never seen that before. And I was thinking, and as soon as he said that, I was like, I wonder why. You know what I mean? Why would security not get involved in a fight like that? Now, is it possible that something about being in Mexico changed the UFC protocol for security? Because they bring their own security.
Where was their security? Did the other security tell them, hey, UFC security, you might want to sit this one out? Red flag number one is big old brawl breaks out. Nobody gets involved. Could just be a freak thing that just happened. Boom. I mean, people are drinking. It's the fights. People are aggressive. Fights happen. It ain't the first fight at a UFC, right? Security didn't jump in. Cool. I wonder if they were there to just disrupt the show. Maybe somebody didn't pay the right somebody and they were just there to disrupt the show. Or it was just a fight between a bunch of aggressive MMA fan drunks, right? Maybe I'm blaming the boogeyman. Cool. There was a fighter that backed out of his fight. When I saw that, that's when I said, oh, these two things seem to be together. It's like two airplanes. Like everybody thought 9/11 was an accident until they saw the second plane. That's how I felt. The fight is the first red flag.
Why would they not go break up a fight, you know? And so I thought about that, and then I thought, well, it is the floor seats at a UFC event in Mexico City, and from what I've heard through documentaries and such, the cartel, generally speaking, is not very forgiving when it comes to things like that. Like if you grab the wrong person and they turn around and see your face, or like, you know, you push someone a little bit too hard and they turn around and see your face, or whatever, any reason to get on their radar while they're in a heated exchange, you know. So do I know that these guys are cartel? Of course not. I have absolutely no idea. But just in, just to make sure that I'm not putting myself in harm's way, I wouldn't say that any of them don't, like I definitely wouldn't say that the guy without the sleeves who got starched.
Bro, buddy's scared to say anything right now. He's scared to say anything right now. He's like, I think everybody in this fight did great.
I'm not even going to make that joke, actually. I'm not even going to make that fucking joke. Because I've watched documentaries about people talking shit about cartel guys online and then they get smoked. I'm good on that, dude. Do I know they're cartel? No. But it would explain why the security did not get involved if they were, because I've never seen that either. You know, security just lets the people fight it all the way out at a UFC event. That's never happens. Now,
but it's Mexico. That's what we do. We scrap, right? Mexico, boxing country. You know what I mean? Dana was telling a story at this press conference about how he was driving past a big old playground and seesaw and slides and swings, and in the middle a little boxing ring for the shorties. Like, it's a fight town, right? Nothing strange. Could quite possibly be that.
Now, the reason why I brought up what Dana said about it not happening at UFC events, that's not exactly accurate. It was accurate if he meant that kind of fight never happens at UFC, and that would be because security always jumps in. But to say that there are never fights at UFC events is just not accurate. I go to
all the time,
lots of events, man. I would say there's a fight at like 1 out of 3, something like 1 out of 3 probably, maybe 1 out of 2 if I'm like, might be 1 out of 2, but they're like fast, you know. They don't turn into this. I've never seen a fight like that at a UFC event ever with this many people. Never. They're usually fast and they're in the crowd and then everybody looks over there and they're, oh, what's going on? By the time,
yeah, sometimes it's the fighters. Sometimes it's Nathan or Nick Diaz slapping somebody up, Masvidal or something. So yeah, so Buddy don't even want to joke. Red flag is the fight.
But yeah, there's fights all the time. But again, security always 100% of the time goes in and breaks them up very quickly. So my theory is that maybe they were concerned about grabbing the wrong person. Okay.
All right. So think about that. That's something that can be a subplot, the next Netflix narco show, right? All right. You ready for the scene? The scene is security kid, 19 years old, happy, got himself a job. The UFC opened up doors for jobs in Mexico City for this arena for this certain amount of time. He's happy. You know, he's there to put his best foot forward, impress his new boss. Big old organized crime fight break out in the audience. Shorty go in there, grab the wrong dude that owns a golden Desert Eagle, grabs him by the shoulder. Dude turns around, sees him, knocks him down, whatever. Next thing you know, Buddy's fighting for his life and his family's life and all of that. You know what I'm saying? So it's a plausible thing. It's a story that's been told, right? It's quite possible. Or security was like, we don't have the resources to stop this big of a fight, so let it die down. They'll get tired eventually. Quite possible.
That's it. Now, and again, floor seats in Mexico City. Those are pricey.
Mike Jones said, I bet Dana ain't having another event there again. I mean, they've done Mexico City before, you know. Have they been paying the right price? Has the relationship soured? Has hierarchies and bosses changed in the time that the UFC's been there, since the first time they were there to now? It makes me want to look back at older UFC events from Mexico and see if I could find any correlations or strange things that I saw then. Again, I could be just putting a web together and creating a bunch of fantasy, but I'm just posing the question. Evidently, he felt that way too. Jesse on Fire felt that way too. Oso said, damn, need me a golden desert eagle. Golden desert eagle, bro. You know what I'm saying? A golden yardbird. One of those guys in that fight right there owns a golden yardbird. That's a fact. Again, Jesse on Fire felt it because of two different things, and I felt it because of two other things. So his second red flag is a minus 2,200 favorite that lost the decision. MMA in general is synonymous with bad judging. Or was the fixing? Was there pressure on somebody?
When they called Felipe as the winner, I literally rewound it like a minute and a half and then turned up the sound because I'm like, did they read the name wrong? That's impossible that they gave that fight to him. So
his argument is that this guy won and this guy should have won. Right? And that it by a tremendous margin. Now, I haven't seen the fight to judge the fight. But he's saying that the line at that point of the fight, the money line in Vegas, was minus 2,200, meaning you'd have to put up $2,200 if you bet on that guy just to win 100. That's how much of a favorite he was at the end of that fight. And they gave the decisions to the other guy. UFC judges, MMA judges, this has been happening for 20, 30 years already. The worst. They're the worst. That's egregious. Like the homie Kalama would say. That's egregious. Have we seen bad decisions like that? Yes. It's only a red flag because of where it's happening. And again, that fight. Those two things coming together is what got Jesse on Fire feeling like there's some kind of cartel presence. For me, it was the fight and the fighter backing out of his fight. But it's not just that he backed out of his fight, it's how he backed out of his fight. But we'll get to that.
And so at the end of the fight, Victor was a minus 2,100 favorite. Okay?
That's crazy.
You hear what I'm saying?
That's crazy. That's crazy. That's 21 to 1.
If you, now that you understand the odds, as me assuming you didn't already. Minus 2,100 means you would have had to bet $2,100 on Victor to win in order to win 100 in the event that he was announced the winner. That's there's no question who won that fight betting line, period. Like that's like, yeah, there's no question. And so they announced the other guy. I've never seen that before. I've never seen a decision that egregious where
and I haven't seen the fight. You know what I'm saying? At a 21 to 1, he must have been dog walking Buddy through the whole fight. Unanimous decision, 3-round victory, what it should have been.
I am like, there's no way you could even misinterpret that fight as far as I'm concerned.
Judges should be responsible for their decisions and have to answer for how they came to that number, to their suggestion of who won. How did you get there? Because if they're just sitting there and they're just catching a check and they're just checking off check marks, like you're killing the sport or you're on the take.
So my thought immediately was, where are they again? It's like, oh, they're in Mexico. It's like, oh, weird. Because I do remember a few incidents having to do with corruption related to betting on soccer. Is it a stretch of the imagination to think that maybe someone with some serious juice made a big boy bet on that fight and then took precautions to make sure that that bet went the direction that they wanted? If there's a fight where you might think that maybe the fix is in, this seems like a pretty strong, option, just given where it is and how egregious that was. And he's like, you would think that they would, you would think that if it was a fix, it would go in the direction of the local fighter because it went against the Mexican fighter, which is certainly, fair. I think that's fair. And like in the Colombia soccer betting thing where they killed that guy who got the own goal against the USA, it was because
it went against the Mexican fighter. So let me think about that. Who would the cartel target if they wanted somebody to take a dive? They probably target the Mexican fighter, right? Someone they could talk to, relate to, threaten, track back their people. Fighter doesn't do it, but they got a judge over there under pressure too. Maybe he placed the bet thinking, well, I'm either going to get a judge or I'm going to get a fighter. One of them is going to do it for me. So I'm going to bet against the Mexican fighter. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing that out there. I'm just throwing my theories out there. All right? I got my aluminum foil hat on, and we've learned over years that everybody laugh at you about conspiracies, and then you find out 20 years later that they have been cloud seeding and changing the weather with chemtrails. This is something that they've admitted to. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, Bud was illegal. Put yourself in that mentality. I got my aluminum foil hat on. The Mexican fighter was a minus 2100, and he took a loss on the decision. All right.
If it was some kind of setup or corruption or whatever, my hypothesis would be that someone knew something about the Mexican fighter, whether they were nursing an injury or any other thing.
Right.
And so
whether they were nursing an injury or whether they were told, Papa, throw this fight, and he didn't throw the fight and they had insurance. It's quite possible. I'm just saying, if I was writing the movie, that would be the scene that I'm writing in the movie. I don't have time to to find and poke holes in it right at this moment because we just freestyling here. But I'm just saying right now, there's a movie cool. We got this dude, a minus 22 favorite, but evidently he's beating the shit out of dude. He's not gonna take this dive. We got insurance. So Mike Jones said they sitting ringside. I got the best seat in the house. So how ain't they having the same count? Yeah, like because they're not MMA. They're not MMA professionals. They're just people that have a government job, a state job. They don't love mixed martial arts. They don't know what they're looking at sometimes. The fight games always had corruption. Now, if you try to convince me, and this happens every time there's a big fight, right after the fight, whoever lost, their people are like, oh, it was a fixed fight. Stop it. Fixed fights don't just happen like that all the time. Promotions are not going to put their promotion at risk for one payday when they got 20 years of paydays to collect. They're not going to do that. All right? So use your brain. The next time your fighter loses, he just lost. There was no fixing or nothing. Now, occasionally when there's some funny stuff going on, maybe here nothing happened. Maybe this was just bad judging. Or there was something funny going on. Quite possible. Who knows? So those are his two red flags, right? I was scrolling. So I saw Raul Rosa Jr. pulls out of his fight. And I'm like, wait a minute, but shouldn't he be fighting like right now? And it turns out he got his hands wrapped. He was backstage. He was warming up. And then he decided not to fight. And in the, 30 years that I've been watching MMA, I don't remember somebody getting to that point to where they're ready to walk to the tunnel and then the fight's off. You usually, by the time you get into the tunnel, fight's going to happen. So this is the first time I see that. And I saw it on my Instagram and said Raul Rosa Jr. pulls out of his fight. And I thought to myself, that sounds funny. If you add that to the fight in the audience, that sounds funny to me. Sounds funny to me that this kid, the youngest fighter in the UFC, he's like 19 years old. He's a young phenom. He's Mexican. He's prideful. They're in Mexico City. He's one of the stars of the show on a main card bout. He's 19 years old. He's on a main card bout. Got an article right here. I'm gonna read. Raul Rosa Jr. explains UFC Fight Night 237 withdrawal. It was a fight night. I hated making that decision. Though he ultimately decided not to fight Saturday at UFC Fight Night 237, Raul Rosa Jr. said the choice was not an easy one. Rosa Jr. withdrew from his main card bout versus Ricky Tercios minutes before the scheduled walkout Saturday in Mexico City, citing illness. On Monday, Rosa Jr. shed light on his decision to withdraw and the symptoms he experienced. He said, sorry to everyone who was waiting for my performance. I was sick all day with dizziness, lightheaded, and cough. I tried my best to recover to go out and perform still and couldn't. Got wrapped, warmed up, did everything I could to shake it off, but felt like shit. If you know me, you know I wouldn't pull out just cause. I hated making that decision, but I had to do it. If you want to make another story in your head, that's cool. I'll be back soon, though. God bless y'all. If you want to make another story in your head, that's cool. Cool. I got another story in my head. somebody put some pressure on you to do something you didn't want to do. It's just a thought. I'm just writing a movie here. This was my red flag. This was my second red flag. I don't recall hearing of a fighter getting to the tunnel and deciding, or about to get to the tunnel and decide, no, I'm not going to fight. Did the boogeyman have something to do with this? So this was strange to me, you know, that he made it all the way, gloved up, warmed up, and nothing. Didn't walk out there. The kid's a go-getter. He's game. He's been game in every fight that he's fought. That was my instant reaction when I saw the picture of him and they said, I wonder now if those two things are related. I wonder if somebody's making a fuss and trying to make the UFC, you know, interrupt the regularly scheduled program. And then when I saw Jesse on fire, I saw the third red flag, which was the bad decision. Big, huge decision like that. So I'm going to put up a poll in the chat and y'all tell me, am I making connections that don't exist? It's good for a movie. It looks good on paper, but not really plausible. Or did the OC have something to do with all of these things that happen at the UFC? This is my question for y'all. He said, if you want to make another story in your head, that's cool. Now, he could be saying that like, I know y'all are going to think that something happened, something else happened, or I'm chicken, or I'm scared, right? Or he could be saying, hey, bro, read between the lines. I'm blinking twice. I need to be rescued. You know what I'm saying? If you want to make another story in your head, that's cool. Do that. Blink, blink, wink, wink, bro. It says it's unclear when Rosa will fight again. UFC CEO Dana White announced this past Saturday that Rosa versus Tercios was rescheduled for UFC Fight Night 238 this coming Saturday in Las Vegas. However, Tercio disputed that shortly thereafter. Rosa, 19, signed with the UFC at 17 years of age. That's not a kid. That's not a kid afraid of the lights. He's already been there with the lights. You know what I'm saying? That's not a kid that's just going to not come out to a fight. I just thought it was strange. And I thought it was even more strange when I saw what Jesse on Fire was talking about. You know, my thing was the fighter pulled out and there was a big old fight. His thing was there was a big old fight and there was bad judging. Now that I got the bad judging in my equation, to me, that's 3-zip right there. Brennerheim said he might have drank the water and got the... Yeah, quite possible too. Quite possible too. Many a fighter has had a shit attack on the way to the ring, for sure. It's known to happen. But damn, they get to the ring or they take their time, they make you wait. Some people be like, oh, this fighter's playing mind games. He's making dude wait. And really, he's having a shit attack and he's in the bathroom. Happens. Did he drink the water and get the shits? Or did somebody put pressure on him and say, hey, bro, you're going to lose this fight? Oh, and there's a fourth red flag for me. Dana wanted to get out of there pretty quick. Like a 19-year-old get a stomach ache. Don't want a 19-year-old that been fighting men his whole life. He get a stomach ache. He don't want to go out and fight in front of his home country? Huh? In Mexico City? Something's weird about that, little buddies. Let's see the poll. What did the poll have to say? The answers are 77% says the cartel. 11% said just coincidence. Shy is tripping. 11% says Shy is tripping. So there's our answer. The cartel did it. The big bad monster.